Welcome to the Blind Loyalty Challenge. I am Amanda Cromhote from Truth Loyalty and the Blind Loyalty Trust. We interview world leaders in loyalty blindly. The challenge is about creating loyalty insight spontaneously and about a lot of fun. Simultaneously, it is about raising the awareness of the Blind Loyalty Trust, and 100% of the proceeds from my book, Blind Loyalty 101 Loyalty Concepts Radically Simplified, go towards the trust. We hope you enjoy the Blind Loyalty Challenge. Today's Blind Loyalty Challenge is with another individual who's a million miles away, but he's currently sitting in the ski slopes in Japan, which is actually not true, but his background, if you're watching this on video, you'll see Regan Yan. He's the founder of Digital Alchemy, which is an amazing organization that's been in our industry for 23 years. And we've just had a wonderful conversation about survival. So it's so fabulous, Regan, to have you. You were tagged by Lee Martin. So welcome to the Blind Loyalty Challenge.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We actually met over 10 years ago in New Zealand, of all places. And yeah, it was like I didn't realize our paths would cross again in this format. So I'm super delighted Lee tagged you. And in fact, your first question on the Blind Loyalty Challenge is the question that Lee left with us. So if you don't like this question, you can go knocking on Lee's door.
Right.
And his
That's
question
very kind
was,
of him.
you did say you enjoyed watching his interview until he tagged you. So
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's why he wanted me to watch it.
So your question from Lee is, practically, how do loyalty programs ensure their sustainability? Talking of survival that you and I have just talked about for our companies, how do loyalty programs ensure their sustainability for the duration of 5, 10, 15 years?
Oh, actually, I think that's a really good question. And I think what's really interesting and what I find, when I talk to a lot of people in the industry who have got, programs, is they set up the program. They set up the mechanics of the program. They set up, and then they don't do anything else. They kind of just sit back and watch it. And then they wonder why people disengage. They wonder why the numbers go down. They wonder why, people aren't, transacting anymore. They wonder why, So I think the secret to success in loyalty is the same as the secret to success anywhere, which is to be continuously evolving, to be continuously thinking about, how do I continue to engage with customers in a way that's relevant? And because relevancy is time bound, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that what's relevant today wasn't relevant 5 years ago, and what's relevant today is probably not going to be relevant a year from now. So I think when you're designing a program, we design programs for clients, and when we're designing programs, I'm always trying to encourage them not to fix things in concrete, because the more you fix in concrete, the harder it is for you to evolve your program, and the more likely it is that you can't evolve it. You actually have to scrap it and start again. And I've done that in the past, and it's incredibly painful, and it's quite risky. So I think, there's a lot of debate that we are seeing with customers at the moment around points. Should I have a program that has points in it? Should I not have a program that has points in it? And these days I'm tending towards encouraging people not to have points because of that rigidity. And also because I think points make the people who design the programs lazy. I think, we've got a points mechanism. We can, just accumulate here and spend here. And we're working on a few programs at the moment where we're building communities, and the whole program is based around interactive communities of people that have similar interests within the program.
Yeah, stunning. I love the community angle. That's lovely. And you talked about engagement, which I think is definitely where I would have landed in answering such a question. So, I mean, obviously, it's a bit obvious, but it's
not rocket
obvious,
science. I mean, ironically, it's just not rocket science.
Exactly. Okay, you can blame me for the next two questions.
Okay.
So, question two, you obviously work across the spectrum from strategy into tech solutions.
Hmm.
And we have 4 or 5 chapters in Blind Loyalty on loyalty tech, whether it's fraud, whether it's design, getting the right tech partner, and so on. So, talking about that, what would you say is the most critical client question that they need to ask a potential technical partner to ensure success?
They need to make sure it works. Like it doesn't need to be flashy and it doesn't need to have every single bell and whistle on the tech, but it needs to be reliable. Because if it doesn't calculate reliably, if it doesn't distribute reliably, if it doesn't transact reliably, that's when you're going to spend a lot of your time just chasing your tail and having a whole bunch of conversations with your customers that you just shouldn't be having. So I think a lot of people, they choose features and functions and maybe even price. But to me, in all of this MarTech, the most important um, characteristic of a MarTech stack is reliability. Because if it's not reliable, you can't automate it. That means that you've got to have people watching it, you've got to have people checking it. You've got a whole bunch of nonsense process. So to me, you know, reliability is by far the most important thing. But come back to fraud. Ask me something. Ask me something about fraud because I have an interesting take on fraud.
Oh, do you? Okay, I'll scrap my last question then. Or I could do a bonus question. We could ask you another one. Okay,
Right.
so um yeah, so we've got 2 chapters on fraud, one about fraud and 2 about mitigation of fraud. So what would you
Mhm.
say is the most difficult thing for clients to manage around fraud?
I think you need to strike a balance when you're managing fraud. Most of the fraud that I've seen comes from a few individuals. Very often it's the merchants, not the customers, by the way. Um,
Mhm. Yeah,
um, but
yeah.
but one of the things that we run a program here in Thailand called Rabbit Rewards, and what I did was I didn't there's an overwhelming temptation to design a process that makes sure that there can be no fraud, to make sure that nobody and 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 when you do that, you very often create a really complicated process. And so you punish 99.9% of people with a process to stop 0.001% of people cheating the system. So I
Yeah.
think the way to deal with fraud in loyalty programs is to have simple systems and then really good reporting to track it. So it's not important that you eliminate fraud. What's important is that you get it quickly. I think is a much more
Stunning,
pragmatic
yeah.
approach to that. Yeah.
I do feel
Um,
like we
uh,
have a very similar approach to the client solution, to client challenges. Everything you've said so far, I feel like it's words coming out of Truth's mouth as well, because we say the same from a fraud point of view. If you actually designed a system, a program that eliminated fraud, you'd never get it off the ground. The
it's
customer would never be able
unusable.
to enroll. It would take them 4 months to get all the security checks and so on. So I completely agree with that. And the speed of reporting to pick it up is critical. Okay, so I'm going to ask you my last question. So thank you for adding
Sure.
in a bonus question. What is your favorite personal customer experience in loyalty?
My personal favorite experience, you mean individual experience that I actually had?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, American Express. And American Express used to, they don't anymore. But they used to advertise that, wherever you go, you should have an American Express card, right? And I've, for years and years and years, I carried an American Express. And then many years ago, 20 years ago, I lost my wallet in the Czech Republic. And I called up, I called up the banks and I stopped my cards. I went into American Express and the lady said to me, she said, "Can you wait an hour?" And I said, "Why?" And she said, "If you wait an hour, I'll give you, I'll give you another card that you can use."
Yeah,
Right. And this is 20 years ago, so this was long before they had digital
yeah,
cards
yeah.
and things like that. So I was cashless, right? Um, and from that moment, I have never I've never stepped out of my house without an American Express card in my pocket.
What a
You
great
know.
expression. I love it. Good for
So I
you.
think, you know, when in loyalty, when the time to create loyalty with customers isn't when they're transacting. The time to create loyalty with customers is when they need you.
Stunning.
You know, when you know, I used to be I fly a lot, and I used to be an Emirates Platinum frequent flyer, and I got stuck in Dubai. I missed a flight, you know, da da da. And Emirates, the lady at Emirates, and I was on a frequent flyer ticket, right? So, you know, by all rights, I probably should have had to burn it. And because I was platinum, she spent 3 hours trying to manipulate the system to get me on the next flight at no cost, right?
Yeah, lovely.
And you know, that's an experience that I'll never forget. So, you know, when I think there's a great temptation. I always tell people, you know, the time to help somebody is when they need you, not when you need them. And I think, you know, that has to be built into our loyalty programs as well, right? Because customers do have bad experiences. And when a customer has a bad experience, that's the opportunity. Because, you know, if you have a loyalty program and you can't remediate a bad experience, people go, why would I be loyal? And so everything that you've done to build up that loyalty program, you know, I'm a gold frequent flyer and still you do nothing for me, it actually
Yeah.
makes it worth.
Yo, you've said some beautiful lines there. When to build up loyalty when they need you, i.e., the customers need you rather than when you need them. It's stunning. Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you, thank you. Lovely. Okay. You're off the hot seat. Who would
Oh.
you like to tag to do the blind loyalty challenge?
I'm going to tag Mark Kelly. He, you know, he used to be a client of ours. He was the head of Everyday Rewards at Woolworths, which is, you know, a massive loyalty program in Australia. Then he went on to be the head of loyalty at Australia's second or third largest bank, and then he went on to you know, to an entertainment business. You know, he's just a really smart guy with, you know, great deep insight into, you know, what really makes loyalty tick and how to operationalize it. So lots of people have lots of great ideas, but Mark really understands how to make stuff work.
Amazing. I always say one of the best reasons I love doing the blind loyalty challenge is I get to meet incredible new professionals around the world. Mark, can't wait to meet you. And Regan, leave us with a question. It might not be for Mark, but leave us with a super hard question for someone.
So my question is, where does ethics play in loyalty? Because loyalty plays on getting people to buy more of something. But in some industries and in some places in the world, there's a moral and ethical question around that.
Great. Wow. Absolutely amazing. Thank you for doing the blind.
Okay, Amanda. It was a real pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.